all of you that you are watching LUNTHA television wherever you are. A big welcome to this special program on the Synodality, the program that comes to you every Sunday in the evening. And we are reflecting much on the final document on the Synodality, which is the fruit of a 3-year global convention involving millions of the Catholics worldwide, including thousands from our own Eastern African community. And in today's program, as usual, you have been your host, Joseph Manoga, and I'm joined by Dr. Andrew Kaufa, all the way from Kenya. Good evening and welcome to the program, Father.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you very much.
Yes. Father Dr. Andrew Kaufa is a Deputy Secretary General of AMESEA and Communication Coordinator. So we have been together, we have been journeying together in this program on Synodality here on LUNTHA Television. Maybe before we go into this program topic, for sure, it would be better to remind the people and our viewers on the last episode that we had the program last week where we are focusing much basically on the, I'm looking at what we discussed much on the last episode, an abundant cash. So we looked much about the convention bond, rope, and universal change. So basically, can you take us through in the last episode before we go to this program topic?
Thank you very much. Being the last program today, I will also not give a long recap, just a brief one. We did the first part on what synodality stands for, and we said it's about journeying together, all of us as baptized people in communion, participating in the mission which Christ gave us from the day of baptism. And I think key numbers in this final document were number 28 and number 22. Then we looked at part number 2, where we focused on the fact that all of us baptized, we have to journey together. And we were saying that the Synod is about the mission of Jesus. And if we have to do this mission, we have to do it together. Therefore, every voice matters in the Catholic Church because we are all missionaries, and let us journey together without leaving anybody outside. And the Pope Francis on this matter, he always said, all of us together, nobody left behind. And we, in that case, we emphasize the point of following the model of Jesus, who listened to everybody. It didn't matter whether one is a Pharisee, one is a tax collector, or one is a leprosarian. He was listening and approaching everybody. Then we went into the other point about the conversion of bonds, which was before we reached conversion of bonds, we talked about conversion of the structures, where we were saying that the synodality is teaching us to embrace those 3 practices. 1, listening to one another actively, and secondly, we consulting one another, what we called ecclesial discernment on whatever we want to do in the church. Never decide alone. Involve each and every person who will be affected by their decision in one way or another. And then lastly, creating what we said, a consensus, collective consensus as a way of making binding decisions to each and every member of our community or parish. Last program, which was the 4th program, focused now on the conversion of bonds. How are our dioceses related with one another? How are our conferences related with the other conferences? How are our bishops and cardinals related with the cardinals and the Holy Father in the Vatican? And I think we spoke quite a lot about paying attention to the changes in the world and the importance of embracing this secular culture of what we are calling these days networking and exchanging and support one another as local churches which are part in a universal church where some are more gifted than the others. So I think that is where we stopped last discussion. And as Joseph says it, today I wanted us now to look at the last chapter, which is basically the title is "So I Send You."
Yes, basically, we need to look into that, looking at forming people for missionary discipleship.
Yeah.
So maybe we should focus much on asking crucial questions like how do we form people who can live in this synod vision as a missionary disciples?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue of formation, Joseph, it was very, very serious. Again, as we have been saying, times have changed. And the way of forming people into becoming Catholics needs to be also done differently. The way of forming priests needs to be done differently. And so there are so many things which the Synod has challenged us with regard to formation. Let me begin with the formation of catechumens, members who want to join the church. The Synod is emphasizing the point which in our African context is not new. The very fact that when a child is born in Africa, we say that child belongs to the village. Now, when we have a catechumen in our Catholic Church, it's not the responsibility of only the teacher of catechism. It's not only the responsibility of the catechist. It's the responsibility of the whole small Christian community, of the whole parish. And this reminds us of the importance of what in many parishes in Malawi there, I'm very, very sure that's what they are following in Benga parish. They call it the rites of Christian initiation for adults, where catechumenate is about an initiation. In Malawi, we have what we call zinamwali. When you talk about zinamwali, initiation in Malawian context, you are not just making people memorize some formulas so that they pass an exam, but you are preparing them to start living a life according to their age. Whether they are entering a marriage, they must know how to live as a married person. Whether they are teenagers, they must know how now to live as young men or young women. So it's about the integral person. Our catechism, although it has to produce people with a synodal mindset, it means we need to look at them not only from the memorizing of doctrinal formulas point of view, but accompanying them to really integrate this culture of dialogue, this culture of listening to one another, listening to God. I think that's the first thing. The second thing this document is mentioning is about our Eucharistic celebrations. I think you remember Pope Francis said a number of times that the Eucharistic celebration, Mass, is the center of our Christian life. And therefore, he was very much concerned on how we prepare for the liturgy. I think in one of the two programs ago, Joseph, you remember, I spoke a lot about the quality of our homilies of priests. For Pope Francis, the time when a priest is preaching is an important moment of formation. So he was really appealing to us as priests, please take time to prepare, read the scriptures, connect the scriptures with the catechism, and help the people understand the word of God from that catechetical point of view and how it can influence their life or change their lives. So in this way, you see that our way of teaching catechism, the way we have been doing, really needs to be looked at. Is it taken seriously? Or is it just for people to finish so many classes and then they are baptized? If a person is not changed, is not converted, at the moment you are teaching catechism, you don't expect much miracles after that. So by the time the parish is baptizing a catechumen, they must really be convinced that this person has now embraced a Christian life, which is very much synodal in nature, because this is exactly what Christ teaches us. The second point in our formation has been the question that challenges our African cultures, especially when it comes to how we relate and how we journey with one another. I think this document is emphasizing on a formation or a catechumenate, which helps people realize that they will work with others. Men will work with women. Women will work with men. The priests will work with the laity. The laity will work with the priests and the bishops. And so it goes on and on. The sisters, the brothers, and those in religious life. Sometimes it's like we belong to the same church, but the priests are doing their own things. Maybe they're even afraid to work with women. Also, maybe the lay people are afraid of the priests. They fear them. And yet the priests come from the same human families, so they are our brothers and sisters. And the same, the sisters are taken, the brothers, the sisters are isolated. Or maybe they also isolated themselves. Us, we are here for education, we are here for the clinic, the life in the parish does not involve us. We need to change our mindset. The synodality is inviting us to learn and to understand that Christianity is about journeying together as Christians. So if you talk about preparing and forming missionaries for the future, they need to have an integral formation, aware of who they will work with. Then the document is at parish level in terms of catechism, but it is also saying that when we talk about Christian life, it's not only about sacraments at the parish. Our Catholic Church has schools. How are the Catholic schools contributing to the formation of people in this synodal way? I think if you read number 146 of this document, it is emphasizing that our Catholic institutions, beginning with primary schools, secondary schools, and the universities, have really to be centers of excellence, both in the human but also in the spiritual formation of young people. You have parishes, or rather in the schools, where maybe priests have never visited for years. Maybe we removed even the little that was there in terms of religious education, and there's no accompaniment of the young people. No accompaniment in the primary school, no accompaniment in the secondary. Then when they go in the university, no accompaniment. And then we are surprised when our youth are lost, or they start going to other movements or churches. Yeah, we cannot leave them alone. So Christian community, or rather the Catholic community, must be present wherever their people are and give accompaniment. This requires formation. So as a diocese, do we have formed, or rather priests and sisters or lay people who have been trained to become catechists, who have been trained to become chaplains, who can give this type of accompaniment to the youth? What about our youth apostolate in the diocese, in the conference? How organized are we that we can pay attention to them? Then it talks about being prophetic in the society. One area I was thinking about it is when they are talking about how can we even use our culture, the modern culture, as a space for formation. When you look at the young people today, where are they? We spoke about the digital technologies. But if you also look at what the young people like, music, art, different things that are happening, sports, how present is the Catholic Church in sports? How present is the Catholic Church in music? How present are they in creative arts, drama, and the like? That's where the young people, that's where most of our people are. If we leave out this area and we don't want to even contribute to influence, then we are leaving out many people who are members of the church and who could be members of the church. I personally have gone to Zanzibar International Film Festival so many times just to look at how is the gospel influencing the new films which people are producing. What can we do to promote gospel values through drama, through films, through creative art? The church needs to do more and to get into all these areas. And this synod is talking about it. If you read number 146, it's really a big challenge. Then, in a way, it has been a kind of a controversial topic in some conferences, the question of priest reformation and the formation of people for religious life. I think number 148 has said that let us review the curriculum of our seminaries. Sometimes we are training people and they are being formed, but they come out not fully prepared to meet the situation on the ground. So already many conferences were revising their what we call ratio formationis, the guideline which the formators, the rectors use in the seminaries in training the future priests. Also the ratio formationis for those who are training to become religious, the sisters, the brothers, and the like. I think the Vatican has been insisting we cannot continue to train our priests as if they live in the 18th century. In 1992, Pope John Paul, he wrote a very challenging letter to seminary, to formators and the like, and saying, these young people of today, they need to be formed and you need to understand the culture in which they are growing. Otherwise, they will come, they leave you, or they join the congregation and you feel that they are not ready to do the mission which they are supposed to do. Sometimes it's like a joke when we hear our priests, the elder members of our congregations or our dioceses, that when they were in the seminary, they were going to play football while wearing cassocks. At that time, it was not allowed for a seminarian to wear a short.
With a rosary.
Yes, and then they are playing football. For us, when we hear that today, it looks awkward. But I'm sure if you ask young people the way we do some things today, they find them awkward. Probably that's why they wonder, why should I go to the seminary? Why did these people go to the seminary? Because it's like they live a world of their own, like on another planet altogether. And because the life in the seminary, the formation programs in the seminary are not responding to the reality on the ground, you see that they are formed, they are ordained, and they are lost. It's the same with the religious. If they are totally disconnected from the world in which they are living, in which the church is living today, they are totally lost. So how do we ensure that these people are trained in a manner that they are relevant to the modern world and that they are also synodal in their approach to missionary life? That's where formation comes. And this document is saying that it doesn't stop only on seminarians. Basically, if we are talking about seminarians, we are also talking about formation of the priests. So the priests
Even
themselves,
the formators as well, they have got a role to play.
they have a role to play. And the synodality should begin with them. Otherwise, they cannot accompany the young people if they have not integrated this new lifestyle. And it also says in 148, it also touches on the formation of bishops. You hear that when a young bishop, a person has been appointed bishop, after a few months or so, you hear that they have gone to Rome, where they are trained on how to be bishops. So even bishops need to be formed so that they live in a synodal lifestyle. And then apart from that is the question of our church being prophetic at the social justice point of view. The Synod has spoken a lot about the poor, the marginalized, people who need to hear the word of God, to hear the gospel. How much is our church involved in social justice issues? In many countries in Africa now, Malawi, Zambia, Tanzania, we are talking about elections. In Uganda, there's elections next year. And then the other year, elections in Kenya. How is the church involved in the formation of the conscience of the people so that they can vote with a Christian, guided by their Christian principles or guided by their faith. So synodality has raised a number of areas where, as we look forward, at the end of the day, we cannot achieve anything without investing more in the training, or rather in the formation of a Catholic of today to begin to think in a new mindset, which we are saying a mindset of synodality, a lifestyle of synodality. So in short, if I may say that I talk anything about the fifth part of this document, this is the call which it is giving us. And I really like the document, because it is clearly saying that at the end of everything, it's our call, as Jesus gave us, to go out and evangelize. So synodality is not about anything but about the mission of Christ. I wanted to read just part of the document when it talks about synodality. Formation of people for missionary disciple, number 141. It says, the holy people of God require proper formation so that they can witness to the joy of the gospel and grow in the practice of synodality, first of all, in the freedom of sons and daughters of God in following Jesus Christ, contemplated in prayer and recognized in those who are poor. So, in short, this is a challenge. It's a challenge to the bishops. It's a challenge to the priests. It's the challenge to the episcopal conferences to invest more and more in the training of the disciples to become missionaries. And I think that is why even our office, as I may say, we are here, and that's why we have been talking about Synod, and we will continue to talk about Synod. We continue to come up with new materials. We launched recently the Made Simple version of this book, because we believe that every parish needs to go into formation. This type of thinking needs to go down up to the small Christian communities. But for it to reach there are so many people who need to be formed: the catechists, the priests, the religious who are in our parishes, even the bishops themselves. All of us, we need to be formed to understand what synodality is, and then to begin to live this new style of being Catholic, of being church. So in short, Joseph, that's what I see as coming out as importantly in this last chapter number 5 of the final document on synodality.
Okay, thank you very much, Father Andrew. So on contemporary challenges, how should East Africa churches address digital culture in formation programs, based on what you have explained, looking at the integration of all?
Yeah, I think first of all, I'm very, very proud that most of our countries in Africa have opened up to the realities of the digital culture, the digital environment, and through their ministries responsible, I think policies are being put in place to encourage the use of the digital technologies and the proper use, as you mentioned earlier, responsible use of these technologies. Now, it would be sad if in our church we ignore this reality. If we ignore the reality in which the young people are, and it's not only the young people, the youth, we are talking about young adults. And when we talk about young adults, it goes on up to the age of 35. And it's not only, it doesn't end there. Most of the people, wherever we are in a digital world. So the church cannot afford to live as a stranger in the digital world. I think the church in Africa needs to invest more in training their people to understand the opportunities which the digital technologies and the digital platforms are offering to the Catholic Church. As I said a number of times, we have so many young people, who are in these platforms. And as far as I have seen, it's the young people themselves who can help our parish priests on how to transform their parishes to to migrate to become digital, if I may put it like that. If you just ask one young person who is conversant with this field, how do you see us transforming our parish to become more digital? You will be surprised the suggestions that young people will bring. Uh, I still remember one day before the late Archbishop Ziai passed on. He was still the bishop, the Archbishop in Blantyre, and we were discussing about the importance of learning these new technologies. I think for a number of times I used to speak with him at personal level. I used to look at him as a father to me, so I was not afraid to talk about issues. When it comes to internet, I remember one day I was chatting. I said, "Your Lordship, do you have email address?" And he was saying, "I don't need those things. I don't need those things."
Mm.
But after some time, there is a time he was telling me, he says, "You know what, Father Andrew, uh, my nephew, a son to my sister, he told me that this holiday he wants to come to stay with me. And he said when he comes to stay with me, he will make sure that by the time he goes back to school, I have an email address and I'm able to post emails."
Mm.
And that young man, he went and he stayed with Archbishop Ziai. And as he was speaking to us at that time, he was saying, "Oh, these things are very good. These things are very good." Now, there are so many there are so many things that are very good about the digital world. I mean, these days we are talking about AI, we are talking about social media, the Instagram and the like. You are seeing how parishes that have migrated, that have adopted these tools, how they are able to reach out to so many Christians. The TV, as we are talking about LUNTHA TV, people are watching LUNTHA TV in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Uganda, everywhere because of the positive aspect of these technologies. Now, we can't remain behind. Now, so if you ask me about digital technologies and how can the church in Africa respond, in my opinion, first thing, let us take it as a positive development. And secondly, let us invest in the training so that we have the skills, how we can use them for evangelization. And secondly, how we can prevent abuse or misabuse of these technologies in occasions where people are not using them properly. But otherwise, they are very powerful and important tools that can help the church, the Synodal church, in evangelization.
All right, thank you very much, Father. So, on formation foundations for the religious and lay ministers, how can we strengthen the formation and support of the catechists across the Eastern Africa, looking at how active they have to be in the church? Because even the catechists, they're part and parcel of these synodalities. They do a lot of pastoral, especially in the parishes, in the remote areas, even in town. We still need the catechists.
Very, very, very true. I think it has been a very, very interesting discussion throughout the synod. One thing that I'm seeing coming out very strongly is the very fact that we need to move on from the understanding that theology or philosophy are programs only for priests. This means that when we talk about catechists, how prepared are they for them to be empowered enough that they can catechize a modern person? Young people today, they look at the qualification of you as a teacher. And if our catechists have to do their job, they have to be trained. And that training has to be presented, and they must be trained in a way that they can appeal to the people whom they will train. So many countries they have already started making sure that the same programs of theology and the like which are being offered to priests, the same theology is being offered to lay people, especially the catechists. lay people, I mean, the sisters, that Hekima College here in Tangaza University in Kwea, there are so many sisters who are doing theology. So if we have to talk about formation today, I would look at it in that way. Let's not close for theology to only to priests and the like. We need our seminaries, our institutions of learning to give opportunities to lay people, to the religious men and women, that they are able to also take some theological programs that can deepen their faith. And then at length, it was discussed the formation of the priests themselves. I know that in many seminaries, including there in Malawi, at Kachebere, you have some women religious who are teaching in the seminary. I think this needs to be encouraged. In the ICI in Balaka, this has been a practice for many years, that sisters come teach the seminarians. Seminarians need to grow and to be formed in an environment where they are aware that they will work with men as well as women. If it's just like a men's business, that no wonder when they get into the parish, some priests get lost, they run away. Now these days, how do you run away? There are so many Catholic women association, very vibrant in our parishes.
The walk on.
Seminarians. So they need to be formed with mothers, with women with motherly heart in the seminary, because they will work with them. So if you ask me about the formation, I'm looking at it this both ways. What is it that we can do for our seminarians in the seminaries to really grow integrally and become effective missionaries in the third millennium, in the 21st millennium, in the synodal world, in the digital environment? And then you also look at the same, how are we preparing our catechists? How are we preparing our lay people theologically so that they deepen their faith and they are able to share this faith with conviction with other people whom they meet as they do their missionary work? We have not yet reached that stage where where people are retiring in their work and they volunteer to become catechists in our parishes. But this has been the trend now in Europe, that people, when they retire at the age of 60 or 65, they want to use their remaining years of their life doing something
Serve
for
the
God.
church.
Yeah. They go to the university, they do a degree in theology, and the major in catechesis, and they're availing themselves to support their parishes, to support their dioceses. I think we need to move that direction. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. So on the nutshell, part 5 reminds us that formation for missionaries discipleship is not a program, it's a way of life.
Yes.
Mm.
It's true, because as I said, when you talk about a program, maybe you think that it has an end. But the way of life, when you talk about it as a way of life, it means we really need to integrate these principles of being synodal, of journeying together with our brothers and sisters to an extent that it manifests itself as our way of being. If you talk about being dialogical and listening to one another, how much am I a listener to other people as a Christian? That if you are a listener, you will become a listener in your family, you will become a listener at your place of work, you will become a listener even at the parish. If we talk about consultation, that second dimension of synodality, where you consult and you work together with other people, it means that instead of just pushing for your ideas and agenda the way people do in parliament, your approach to life is, before I speak, let me listen to other people. So you listen to other people, and then having listened, you say, okay, now what do I see the Holy Spirit is telling me to do as a leader and then you make a decision. So you'll see that what the Pope is saying is really true. These are principles which, if they become part of and parcel of your life, they help in all areas, in your family life, in a place of work, but also as a leader, it will always be helpful. And this is actually the way Jesus was in his life, always listening, always working together with his disciples, and making decisions together with them.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's good to listen and sometimes as a leader to consult before making a decision. And once you get the views from the people, you're the person that you need to make a final decision. Okay, fine. Then we are coming towards the end of the program and we are concluding all the chapters that we had. You might have something to add up before we sum up of today's program.
Yeah, my appeal as at the end of our program is that it has been good. I'm very grateful for this opportunity that LUNTHA TV has given me, has given you viewers to have an understanding of what this document is talking about, synodality. As I said when we were beginning this program, people have published a lot about synodality. People are still writing a lot about synodality, but what is it, the Catholic teaching about synodality? I think that's what we have been trying to do, to look at this final document and say, this is what the Catholic Church is teaching about synodality, about journeying together as disciples of Jesus Christ. Now, it requires us to put this document into implementation. And that's why Pope Leo has taken it up from where Pope Francis left to say, let us now begin the journey of the implementation. So the implementation phase has started last month, June, and it has to go on up to December 2026. I would really encourage you that you make sure that you are not left behind. Yes, our parish priests will have a lot of work to do. Our bishops have a lot of work to do, but also individually, each and every Catholic has a work to do. Let's get interested to get this literature. The books, the final document is available in most of the bookshops in our conferences, especially the Pauline Sisters. I'm very sure they have it. And as in the context of Malawi, I know the Montfort Media are working on it and they have it. Let us have an interest to read. And when we are told that there's a training organized in our parish about synodality, let us go and listen and learn together with our friends. At the end of the day, this document is calling us on what do we want changed in our parish, in our diocese. So the church expects you to contribute, to say, from the way I have understood this document, in our local context, I think we should do ABC. These are the things that will help your parish priest to give a report to the bishop come January 2027. That our Christians, they said, having listened to the final document on synodality, let us do ABC in our parish. We have done it, we have implemented, and these are now the fruits of synodality in our parish. Your priest will be able to do it if you cooperate with the priest. Now, the priest has to take that to the bishop. It means the priest also has to cooperate with the bishop. And then the bishop will be asked in January 2027 to give a report to fellow bishops in the conference, and then together as a conference to send their report to Rome. That's the second half now of 2027, and these documents go to Rome, and then in 2028, between January and June, it means now Rome will send those documents back to Africa and say, from what we have gathered from Malawi, Zambia, Uganda, and the like, this is what people felt they should do to make their church synodal, and that has now been done. But this is what they are telling us. So what should be the way forward? So our bishops at Africa level will look at it again and see what else is remaining, what else needs to be done. Then they will send their report again to Rome. And then those who will be invited to Rome the way it happened last year and in 2023, those will also go and represent us in Rome at the meeting where the Universal Church will now share what have been the fruits of synodality. I wouldn't want to see any diocese that is left behind in this process. It will be sad, and that's why, if you ask me, Joseph, I'll say let's take this agenda seriously at individual level, and then at the parish level when our priests are inviting us, and then at national level when our bishops invite us to play a role in making our church synodal.
Thank you very much, Father Andrew. It has been glad to have you in the program, and we thank you very much for your insights and your contribution towards the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Then thereafter, we have come to the end of the last episode in our special program that we have been running here on LUNTHA Television on the Synodality. This is the program that we are focusing much on the final document on synodality, which is the fruit of a 3-year global conversation involving millions of Catholics worldwide. And we are focusing on what the late Pope Francis wrote to us. So you have been with me, Joseph Manoga, and I say thank you very much, Father Andrew, and wish you well there in Kenya.